He has a Nobel Prize. He built the technology that powers ChatGPT, and he just told the world something most people are too scared to say out loud. Geoffrey Hinton, the man they call the Godfather of AI, sat down for one of the most honest interviews about artificial intelligence you will ever hear. No hype, no sales pitch, just the truth. And in that conversation, he laid out 7 real threats, not science fiction, not doomsday panic, real, documented, happening right now threats. Here's the twist though, the first one on his list is not the scariest one. It's the one you might already be living through right now. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what these 7 threats are in the order they actually matter, from the one already knocking on your door to the one that could end it all. Let's start with who this man actually is, because it matters. Geoffrey Hinton isn't some internet influencer chasing clicks about killer robots. He's a Nobel Prize winner. Physics, 2024. He spent 50 years building the mathematical foundation that makes machines like ChatGPT possible. For a decade, he worked inside Google, at the very center of the AI revolution. And then, in 2023, he walked away. Not because he was fired, not because of a scandal. He left so he could finally speak freely about how dangerous this technology could become. Think about that for a second. The man who helped build the engine didn't run from the danger, he ran toward the microphone. Now, here's something important before we go any further. The interview we're pulling from today is heavy. Hinton doesn't sugarcoat anything. But this channel isn't here to make you scared and leave you there. We're here to make you prepared. Because every threat we're about to walk through has one thing in common. The people who understand it early are the ones who adapt first. And adapting first is, historically, always better than adapting last. So let's rank these 7 threats the way they actually deserve to be ranked, not by how scary they sound, by 2 things: how urgent they are, meaning how much they're already reshaping your life today, and how dangerous they could become if nothing changes. We start at number 7, the one already sitting in your inbox: mass unemployment. Yes, not killer robots, not viruses, your job. Here's a story Hinton told in that interview that stuck with me. He has a niece who works answering complaint letters for a health service. It used to take her 25 minutes to read a complaint, think it through, and write a reply. Now she scans it into a chatbot, it writes the letter, she just checks it. 5 minutes. That means she can now do the work of 5 people, which means eventually they need 5 times fewer of her. That's not a hypothetical. That's happening in offices right now, this week, while you're watching this. And it's not small anymore. In the United States, AI is now the single most cited reason for job cuts, responsible for about 13% of all layoffs in the first quarter of 2026 alone. Compare that to under 1% just 2 years earlier. Let that sink in for a second. 13%, up from less than 1. Real companies, real names. Klarna, the payments company, publicly bragged about replacing customer service agents with an AI system, only to quietly bring humans back months later when customers revolted. Duolingo told its team it was going AI first and cut contractors. Amazon's own CEO told employees in writing that the corporate workforce will shrink over the next few years because of generative AI. Hinton himself said something chilling in that podcast. A CEO messaged him privately, said his company had just over 7,000 employees, down to 5,000 last year, down to 3,600 right now, and by the end of summer they'd be at 3,000 because AI agents can now handle 80% of customer service work on their own. That's one company cutting more than half its workforce, not over a decade, over about a year. Now, I want to be fair here because we promised you honesty, not panic. Not every economist agrees on how much of this is really about AI. Some researchers looked at the bigger picture and found the overall economy isn't collapsing because of it, at least not yet. A lot of companies quietly admit they blame AI for layoffs that are really about something else entirely, like cutting costs after overhiring. So here's the honest version. AI isn't necessarily destroying the total number of jobs in the world tomorrow. What it's doing right now today is destroying specific jobs in specific industries faster than new ones are appearing to replace them. The International Monetary Fund itself warned that generative AI could cause serious labor disruption and widen inequality, and called on governments to act. Hinton's own reaction to this was blunt. He said if you gave people unemployment money but no job, most of them still wouldn't be happy, because people need purpose, not just a paycheck. So what do you actually do with this? You stop asking, will AI take my job, and start asking, which parts of my job can only be done by a human, and how do I become undeniably good at those parts? Hinton, half-joking, told his own children to consider becoming a plumber. Physical, hands-on work is still years away from being automated. But the deeper lesson isn't, go learn plumbing, it's this. The skills that survive are the ones machines still can't touch, and the people who figure that out early get to choose their future instead of having it chosen for them. All right, that's threat number 7. Already here, already reshaping paychecks across the world. If this is landing with you, this is a good moment to hit like, subscribe to this channel, and come back and watch with us every single day, because we're about to go somewhere much darker. Because threat number 6 isn't about your job anymore. It's about someone stealing your voice, your face, and your bank account without you ever knowing it happened. Threat number 6. Cyber attacks. And I don't mean the old kind, some guy in a hoodie typing green code in a dark basement. I mean something much more personal. Hinton said something in that interview that should worry you. Between 2023 and 2024, cyber attacks increased by roughly 1,200%. Not 12%, 1,200. And it hasn't slowed down since. By 2025, 87% of organizations worldwide had experienced an AI-driven cyber attack. 85% had dealt with some kind of deepfake attack, meaning fake audio, fake video, fake identities built by AI to fool a real human being. And Hinton isn't just talking about today. He said something that should stick with you. AI doesn't get tired. It doesn't get bored. It can sit there and scan 100 million lines of code, patiently, looking for a single weak spot no human would ever have the patience to find. He believes that by 2030, these systems will start inventing entirely new kinds of attacks, not variations of old tricks. Attacks nobody anywhere has ever thought of before, because the AI is drawing conclusions from more data than any single hacker could ever study in a lifetime. Think of it this way. A burglar used to need a crowbar and a bit of luck. Now imagine a burglar who's read every architectural blueprint ever filed, studied every lock ever manufactured, and never sleeps. That's the shift we're talking about. Here's why this happened so fast. Phishing, the classic scam email pretending to be your bank or your boss, used to take effort. Bad grammar gave it away, obvious mistakes gave it away. Not anymore. Today, over 80% of phishing emails are written by AI. They're grammatically perfect, they know how you talk, how your company talks, even how your boss signs off an email. And they work. AI-written phishing emails now get clicked more than 4 times as often as the ones a human wrote. One campaign targeted 800 accounting firms with AI-generated emails and got a 27% click rate, in an industry where a good hacker used to be thrilled with 2 or 3%. Now, let's talk about the part that should really unsettle you: voice cloning. Hinton told a story in that interview about himself. Scammers took his actual voice from his own podcast appearances, cloned it, and built fake video ads running on Instagram and Facebook, showing him encouraging people to join a cryptocurrency scheme. He said his team spent weeks reporting it. Meta would take one down, a new one would appear the next day. He called it whack-a-mole.
And then he said the part that really got me. People messaged him afterward, furious because they'd lost $500, $1,000, trusting a video of a man who never said any of it. If it can happen to a Nobel Prize winner with a legal team and a podcast audience, think about what it can do to your grandmother, who has neither. This isn't theoretical anymore either. In 2024, an employee at a global engineering firm in Hong Kong joined what looked like a completely normal video call with his company's chief financial officer and several colleagues. Every face on that call was a deepfake. Every voice was fake. He ended up wiring $25 million to criminals before anyone realized what had happened. $25 million from one video call that nobody questioned because everyone on it looked and sounded exactly right. Deepfake fraud overall has climbed over 2,000% since 2022. Impersonation scams alone jumped 1,400% in a single year. One security firm tracked nearly 1,000 cases in just 3 months of criminals using live deepfake video to infiltrate corporate meetings in real time. Not pre-recorded, live, responding to questions as the meeting happened. And the FBI has confirmed what you'd expect. AI-assisted business email scams, where a vendor or executive asks for an urgent wire transfer, rose by over 1/3 in a single year. Hinton was so concerned about this that he personally changed how he handles money. He spread his savings across 3 separate Canadian banks on the theory that if a cyber attack ever took one down, the other 2 would immediately tighten security. He even keeps a physical hard drive backup of his laptop disconnected from the internet, just in case. Think about that. One of the smartest people alive, the man whose work created the foundation for this entire industry, is hedging against the very technology he helped build. Here's the honest, useful part. You don't need 3 bank accounts and an offline hard drive to protect yourself, but you do need one new habit. If anyone asks you for money, your login details, or a wire transfer over a call, a text, or a video, verify it through a second channel before you act. Call the person back on a number you already have saved, not the number they just gave you. That single habit would have stopped almost every example we just walked through. All right, that's threat number 6, already reshaping your inbox, your bank account, and honestly, your trust in your own eyes and ears. But here's the thing, losing money to a scam is awful. What we're about to talk about next is worse in a different way, because it's not stealing your bank account. It's quietly rewiring how you see the entire world, and you won't even notice it's happening.
Threat number 5, echo chambers. This one is quieter than the last 2. No stolen money, no pink slip, which is exactly why it's so dangerous. You don't feel it happening. Here's how Hinton explained it, and it's simple once you hear it. Every time you open TikTok, YouTube, or Instagram, an algorithm decides what you see next. And that algorithm has one job: keep you scrolling, keep you clicking. Because the longer you stay, the more ads it can sell. So what keeps you scrolling? Not calm, balanced content. Hinton's word for it was indignant. Content that makes you angry, but righteously angry. Content that confirms what you already believe, just a little louder each time. Show someone a video of a politician they already dislike doing something outrageous, and they will click every single time. The platform learns that, and it shows you more of exactly that tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. Now stretch that out over 10 years. Hinton's point is chilling in its simplicity. If the algorithm shows you slightly more extreme content every single day for a decade, you don't stay where you started. You drift further from nuance, further from the middle, further from people who see things differently than you. He said something that really lands. He said he shares a reality with people who read the same newspapers he does, and he has almost no shared reality left with people who get their information from different sources entirely. 2 people, same country, same year, living in what feel like 2 different worlds because 2 different algorithms built 2 different versions of the truth for them. Think about your own grandparents' newspaper, if they still get one. Everyone in town read the same headlines. You might disagree with your neighbor about politics, but you are arguing about the same set of facts. That's gone now. Your feed is not my feed. My feed is not your coworker's feed. We are each living inside a version of the internet built specifically to keep us hooked, and increasingly built by AI systems tailoring content to us individually, not just by category, but by us personally. Here's a small but telling detail from that same interview. Hinton said roughly 3/4 of his own personal newsfeed is about artificial intelligence, and he admitted he genuinely can't tell anymore if that's because the whole world is obsessed with AI, or because his algorithm has simply decided that's the version of the world it wants to keep showing him. If a Nobel Prize winner can't tell the difference between reality and his own feed, what makes you so sure you can? And here's the part that should make you a little uncomfortable. This isn't a conspiracy. Nobody at these companies is twirling a mustache planning to divide society. Hinton was clear about this too. These are companies legally required to maximize profit for their shareholders. Showing you calm, balanced content doesn't sell ads as well as showing you the thing that makes your blood boil. The outrage isn't a side effect, it's the business model. Governments have started noticing. In December 2025, Australia became the first country in the world to ban social media entirely for anyone under 16. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, X, all of it. Over 1 million underage accounts were deactivated in a single sweep. Companies that don't comply face fines close to $50 million. The European Union took a different approach. Their Digital Services Act now forces large platforms to actually explain in writing how their recommendation algorithms work, and gives outside researchers the legal right to inspect the data behind them. Whether you agree with these specific laws or not, notice what they have in common. Governments finally admitting the algorithm itself is the problem, not just the content sitting inside it. Hinton's advice for the rest of us wasn't complicated. He said what you actually need is a regulated capitalism, rules that force companies to make their profit by being genuinely useful to you, the way search engines were, instead of profiting by making you angrier and more isolated. Here's something practical you can actually do tonight. Go check who you follow, not who you agree with, who you follow. If every single account in your feed already thinks exactly like you do, you're not informed, you're insulated. Add one source you disagree with, not to fight with it, just to remember the rest of the world is still out there thinking differently than you, and that's normal. That's threat number 5. It doesn't take your job or your money, it takes something quieter, your ability to see reality the same way as the person sitting across the table from you. If you're starting to notice this in your own life already, this is exactly the moment to hit like, subscribe, and follow this channel every day. Because we've got 3 threats left, and they get a lot more serious than an algorithm. Because up next, threat number 4 isn't about what you watch, it's about who gets to run your country, and whether your vote was ever really yours to begin with. Threat number 4, corrupting elections. Here's Hinton's logic, and it's uncomfortably simple. If you wanted to manipulate an election using AI, what's the single most valuable thing you could have? Not a bigger budget, not better slogans. Data. Detailed, personal data on every single voter. Because once you know how much someone earns, where they live, what they're afraid of, what makes them angry, you don't need to convince them of anything with a logical argument. You just need an AI system that can write the exact message in the exact tone that already matches what's going on in their head. Something they'll find very convincing, in Hinton's own words. Sometimes that message isn't even about who to vote for. Sometimes it's simpler than that. It's a message convincing the right people, quietly, not to vote at all. This already happened, and it's not ancient history. Right before the 2024 New Hampshire primary, roughly 25,000 voters received a robocall. The voice sounded exactly like President Biden. It told Democrats to save their vote for November instead of voting in the primary. It was entirely AI generated. The man behind it was later fined by federal regulators. During that same election cycle, AI-generated deepfake videos of Vice President Kamala Harris circulated widely, including one that falsely showed her saying things she never said. It was shared, among many others, by Elon Musk on his own platform, X, to his hundreds of millions of followers. Separate fabricated videos falsely accused vice presidential nominee Tim Walz of things that never happened. This isn't just an American story either. In India, AI deepfakes showed celebrities appearing to criticize the sitting prime minister and endorse opposition parties, spreading fast across WhatsApp and YouTube. In Romania, the presidential election was actually annulled after investigators found evidence of AI-assisted foreign interference boosting one candidate's visibility. In 2025, a deepfake video of Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, spread right before an election and had crossed 1 million views within weeks. Now, to be fair, researchers who study this closely say something important. So far, there's no solid proof that a single deepfake has, by itself, flipped the outcome of a major national election. That's the honest, non-panicked version. But every one of those same researchers says the same second thing. The tools are getting cheaper, faster, and more convincing every few months. And the gap between "this could theoretically work" and "this actually decided an election" is closing fast. Romania is the clearest warning sign we have that it's not purely theoretical anymore. Notice something about that list. It isn't one political side doing this to another. It's happening in democracies, against candidates across the entire spectrum in country after country. The technology doesn't care about your politics. It just needs your data and your attention. Which brings us back to Hinton's real warning. And this is the part that made me sit up. He pointed to what was happening inside the US government itself, where a small team was given sweeping access to federal systems containing incredibly detailed personal data on American citizens. Systems that had previously been kept deliberately separate from each other for exactly this reason. Officially, the justification was efficiency. Hinton's blunt reaction was that consolidating all of that data into one place is, quote, exactly what you would want if you intended to corrupt the next election. He was careful to say he had no proof of intent, just common sense about what that kind of access makes possible. That's the uncomfortable truth sitting underneath this whole threat. It doesn't require a mustache-twirling villain. It just requires data that used to be scattered, getting quietly gathered into one place, and an AI system smart enough to know exactly which message to send you and exactly when to send it. So what can you actually do about this, as one person watching a video? Two things. First, treat any message, ad, or call urging you to vote, not vote, or vote a certain way with the same suspicion you treat a stranger asking for your bank details, because increasingly it's built with exactly the same technology. Second, get your information about candidates from official, verifiable sources, your local election authority's own website. Establish news organizations with a real newsroom behind them, not from whatever a personalized feed happens to hand you at 9 at night when you're tired and your guard is down. That is precisely the moment these systems are built to catch you. And here's a small habit worth building. Before you share anything political that made you feel a strong emotional jolt, wait 10 minutes and check if a real, named news organization is reporting the same thing. Real events get covered by more than one source almost immediately. Fabricated ones usually don't. Democracy has always depended on one basic assumption, that the people voting are making up their own minds. AI is the first technology in history capable of quietly making up their minds for them at a scale of millions of people all at once, each one convinced the thought was entirely their own. That's threat number 4. Up next, threat number 3 stops being about information entirely. It's about machines that have already been given the authority to decide on their own who lives and who doesn't. And they're not in some future battlefield. They're in a war happening right now. Threat number 3, lethal autonomous weapons. Machines that decide on their own who to kill. Hinton had a small personal story that made this feel real before he even got to the geopolitics. A friend of his had a drone that cost less than 200 pounds. It went up into the air, looked at him, and then followed him through the woods on its own, 2 meters behind him the whole time. If he moved left, it moved left. Nobody was steering it. He called it spooky, and that was a 200-pound hobby drone, not a weapon. Now here's the part of his argument that I think most people miss. He wasn't mainly worried about these machines malfunctioning. Let's say they work exactly the way they're designed to. That's still the problem, and here's why. When powerful countries invade weaker ones using human soldiers, bodies come home in bags, families grieve publicly, protests start, governments lose elections over it. That friction, that political cost, has historically been one of the things that slows wars down. Now, take the soldiers out of the equation. Replace them with machines. No funerals, no grieving families demanding answers on the news, just expensive hardware that gets replaced. Hinton's point is chilling, precisely because it's not about evil robots turning on us. It's that removing the human cost of war makes war easier to start and easier to keep going. This isn't a future scenario. It's happening in Ukraine right now, in real time, as the most intense live laboratory for autonomous weapons the world has ever seen. Ukraine produced close to 4.5 million drones in 2025 alone, more than 2 million of them small first-person view attack drones. Ukraine's own digital transformation minister said publicly that the percentage of drones with autonomous targeting, meaning the drone itself decides where to strike, not a human operator, was set to rise sharply. And the reason is brutally practical. A drone with a human pilot hits its target roughly 10 to 20% of the time because jamming and interference break the signal. A drone that can identify and lock onto its own target with no human in the loop hits 70 to 80% of the time. That gap is why autonomy is spreading so fast. It's not ideology, it's a battlefield win rate.
On the other side, Russia appears to have already deployed a fully autonomous combat drone, using off-the-shelf processing chips originally built for consumer robotics, capable of identifying and striking targets completely on its own once it loses its connection to a human operator. In May of 2025, 7 of these drones reportedly broke away from their planned mission mid-flight, formed their own holding pattern, and coordinated an attack on vehicles and people without any human giving that specific order. Sit with that for a second. Not a human deciding to attack and a machine carrying it out. A group of machines deciding, together, without anyone watching, that this was the moment to strike. And this isn't hidden or secret anymore. In the middle of 2025, Ukraine formally invited weapons manufacturers from around the world to bring their drones, robots, and missile systems and test them in actual combat against a real enemy. Real companies, real battlefield, real-time results sold back into the global defense industry. Here's the regulatory gap Hinton pointed to, and it's worth knowing about. Europe has some of the most detailed AI regulations on paper anywhere in the world, but buried in that regulation is a clause stating that none of it applies to military uses of AI. Governments, it turns out, are quite willing to regulate companies and private citizens. They're far less willing to regulate themselves. So what do you actually do with a threat this big, this geopolitical, sitting this far above any one person's daily life? Honestly, this is the one threat on our list where there's no personal habit that fixes it, no app, no setting, no second-channel phone call. What actually moves the needle here is public pressure on the people who write the rules. International treaties on autonomous weapons have been debated at the United Nations for years, and they keep stalling, partly because no major military power wants to be the one who unilaterally disarms. But it's worth remembering this has happened before. Landmines were once considered a permanent, unstoppable fact of modern warfare, too, until enough public pressure across enough countries built a treaty banning them in 1997. It wasn't fast and it wasn't perfect, but it proved that even brutal, entrenched military technology can be reined in when enough ordinary people refuse to look away. Awareness is genuinely the first step here, and now you have it. That's threat number 3, machines making life or death decisions, already deployed, already adapting faster than the treaties meant to control them. We've covered jobs, money, your sense of reality, and your vote. Threat number 2 takes all of that fear and makes it look small, because it's not about controlling what you think or what you own anymore. It's about a single person with almost no training being able to design something that could kill millions. Threat number 2, viruses, biological weapons. Hinton didn't dress this one up at all. He said it plainly. This threat doesn't require a government, a lab, or a conspiracy. It requires, in his own words, one crazy guy with a grudge. One person who knows a little bit of molecular biology, knows a lot about AI, and wants to hurt the world. Read that back. Not a terrorist cell, not a rogue state. One person. Here's why that's even possible now. Designing a dangerous virus used to require years of specialized training most people will never have access to. AI collapses that barrier. It can walk someone with basic science knowledge through steps that used to require a PhD and a fully equipped lab. Hinton said a small group, even something as small as a cult, could realistically raise a few $1 million and use AI assistance to work toward designing something genuinely dangerous. And yes, he also pointed to the state-level version of this fear, governments quietly funding small teams to develop something similar. His honest take was that nation-states are at least partly restrained by fear of retaliation and fear of the virus spreading back into their own country. The lone individual with a grudge has no such restraint. That asymmetry is what should actually worry you. The interviewer actually pushed him on this, bringing up the debate around the Wuhan lab and so-called gain-of-function research, the kind of research that intentionally makes viruses more dangerous in order to study them. Could a government quietly fund a small team to build something like that using AI? Hinton's answer was simple. Yes, he thought they could. The only real question was whether other countries would ever be able to prove it happened and whether fear of getting caught would be enough to stop it. He wasn't confident it would be. Now here's where this stops being a hypothetical from a podcast and becomes something happening in the news this week. In April of 2025, OpenAI itself, the company, quietly reclassified its own models as approaching what it calls high risk for bioterrorism, meaning capable of substantially increasing the likelihood of a real biological attack. A few months later, they classified their newest AI agent as highly capable in the biological weapons portion of their own internal risk framework, a category they reserve for the most serious dangers they track. Anthropic ran its own tests and found something just as unsettling. Their model, Claude, improved a person's ability to complete bioweapons-relevant tasks by roughly 2.5 times. That result was serious enough that they activated their highest safety protocol for that model, because they said they could not rule out that it might meaningfully help someone with basic science training acquire or build a chemical, biological, or nuclear weapon. Then, this past June, something happened that almost never happens in this industry. The CEOs of OpenAI, Anthropic, Google DeepMind, and Microsoft AI all signed the same letter to the United States Congress. Fierce competitors, normally locked in a race against each other, agreeing on one specific thing: that AI is eroding the knowledge barriers that used to keep bioweapons out of reach for ordinary people, and that synthetic DNA and RNA orders need mandatory government screening before that gap closes any further. Think about how rare that is. These are companies that disagree on almost everything publicly. They agreed on this. And then just this week, the Wall Street Journal reported something that should genuinely stop you for a second. After a recent ChatGPT upgrade, OpenAI found hundreds of users and directly asked the system for instructions on building biological weapons and toxins. Hundreds. Not zero, not a handful, hundreds of people typing that request into a chat box this month. Here's the part I actually find hopeful, and I promised you this channel stays constructive, even here. Unlike some of the earlier threats where the profit motive works directly against safety, this is one area where the companies building these systems are the ones sounding the alarm and asking publicly for outside regulation. There's a real physical choke point available too. Building a virus from scratch requires ordering synthetic genetic material, and if every lab selling that material is legally required to screen every order against known dangerous sequences, that single checkpoint could stop most of these scenarios before they ever leave a computer screen. That's the useful takeaway. This threat is real, but it's also one of the few on this list with a genuinely workable technical fix already being pushed by the very people who understand the danger best. That's threat number 2, the most quietly catastrophic entry on this list, and the one where, encouragingly, the industry itself is finally acting scared enough to ask for a leash. Which brings us to threat number 1. And here's the twist Hinton kept coming back to throughout that entire interview. The scariest version of any of these 7 threats was never really any single one of them on its own. It's what happens when 2 or 3 of them hit at exactly the same time. Threat number 1. The combination of all of them. Here's the idea straight from that interview, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Hinton said you can get, in his words, combinatorially many risks by combining the other risks, meaning the real danger was never any single item on this list acting alone. It's what happens when 2 or 3 of them land on the same day. Let's make this concrete because vague fear is useless. Picture a cyber attack, the kind we talked about earlier, timed to take down a region's power grid and financial systems at the exact same moment autonomous drones are active in a nearby conflict zone. Communication breaks down right when clear thinking matters most. Or picture an AI-generated deepfake scandal
hitting right before an election, at the exact same hour a coordinated cyber attack cripples the banks. Confusion stacking on confusion, nobody able to verify what's even real anymore at the worst possible moment. Individually, each of those is a bad week. Stacked together, on purpose, in the same 72 hours, they stop being separate news stories. They become a single crisis that overwhelms every institution meant to respond to just one problem at a time. That's the actual shape of the danger. Not one dramatic villain moment, a pileup. And Hinton took this thinking to its most extreme edge, too. In that interview, he floated the darkest version of this idea. A future AI system smart enough to combine tools entirely on its own, without a human directing it at all. He specifically mentioned if such a system ever wanted to cause maximum harm, biological weapons would be the tool it would likely reach for, because a virus that spreads quietly and slowly could infect people long before anyone realized what was happening. Now, I want to be honest with you about where that idea sits. That specific scenario depends on a level of independent machine intention we haven't seen and can't currently verify. It's the most speculative point in the entire interview, and reasonable experts, including some of Hinton's own colleagues, disagree with him on how seriously to take it. So we're not going to pretend that's a settled fact. What is settled, what we've shown you with names, numbers, and this month's headlines, is that humans combining these tools against other humans is not speculative at all. It's already the actual pattern. That's threat number one, and it's the one worth taking most seriously, precisely because it doesn't require anything hypothetical to happen first. So here's the deeper thing I want you to walk away with, because a list of 7 scary things isn't worth your 40 minutes if it doesn't add up to something. Every single threat on this list has the exact same root cause: a powerful new capability spreading faster than our habits, our laws, and our institutions can keep up with it. That's it. That's the whole pattern, from your job to your ballot to a hospital lab.
This isn't actually the first time we've done this as a species, if you think about it. We build the powerful thing first, and only afterward do we scramble to build the guardrails around it. Cars existed for decades before seatbelts were mandatory. Factories ran for a century before basic safety laws caught up with them. Planes flew for years before air traffic control existed in any real form. The pattern is always the same: capability first, caution second, and a painful gap in between where the damage happens. The only variable we actually get to control is how long that gap lasts and how much attention we pay while we're standing in it. And here's the part that actually matters for you sitting there right now. Every threat we covered also had the same shape of solution. It started with one person understanding what was actually happening instead of scrolling past it. Hinton spent 50 years building the foundation of this technology, and when he finally understood where it was heading, he didn't stay quiet in a comfortable job. He walked away so he could say something. One person deciding to pay attention and speak up is a small thing. It has also been, historically, exactly how every dangerous technology in history eventually got a leash put on it. Nuclear weapons, landmines, even, slowly, the earliest days of unregulated aviation. It never happens instantly, and it's never guaranteed, but it starts exactly where you are right now, a person who just spent 40 minutes actually understanding the problem instead of being afraid of it from a distance. That's the whole point of this video, and it's why we don't end videos like this on despair. Fear that doesn't lead anywhere is just noise. Understanding that leads to one specific habit, one specific vote, one specific conversation with someone who needed to hear it, that's the only version of this that ever actually changes anything. So here's what I'll ask of you. If any part of this actually shifted how you're going to think about your job, your bank account, your feed, or your vote, follow this channel because we cover exactly this every single day, and this conversation is only getting more relevant, not less. Share this with one specific person, not everyone, one person who needed to hear this today. A parent worried about their kid's job, a friend who just got a suspicious video call, someone still arguing that none of this is real yet. And before you go, drop a comment and tell us which of these 7 threats worried you the most and what you'd want us to dig into next. Because honestly, this list could easily have been 10 threats deep, and we want to know which direction you want us to go. I'll see you in the next one.